All right. Well, thanks for tuning into another episode of the Why Influence podcast, where we interview influencers about their why and why they're sharing online. I'm your host, Jeremy Siegel, and today our guest is Aaron Walker. He's got a really interesting story. He's been featured on, I think it's almost 2,000 podcasts now over the past 6 years,
Right.
and you can clarify that for me. But you're an author. You wrote a book called View from the Top. You've built communities. You have this mastermind community called Iron Sharpens Iron. You're a life coach, business coach. You've started and built businesses, but you're out there, you're sharing, you're influencing, you're making impact. So I think that your story is going to be interesting. So I just want to thank you for coming on the show today.
Jeremy, thank you, buddy. I'm excited to be your guest today, and I've been looking forward to it all day, and it's finally here. So hopefully we can add a little bit of value to your listeners.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Aaron. So do you mind giving just like a 2 to 3 sentence elevator pitch of what your brand and what your sharing world looks like and what you're all about?
This is our 42nd year in business. Over 4 decades now, we've built 14 companies, and presently we have a company called View from the Top, and I help ordinary men become extraordinary in all they do. That's our mission statement, and we do that through mastermind groups, and we have Iron Sharpens Iron Mastermind Group. Today we have 18 mastermind groups, and we're in about 9 different countries now.
Wow. And each mastermind has about, was it 10 people?
10 people. Yes, we have 10 in each mastermind.
Okay. So you've built this really strong community of roughly 180 to 200 people
Right.
With this mastermind.
Right. We've got 15 that are exclusive for men. We have 3 with women, and we have a new one called Emerging Men from 20 to 25-year-old young men.
Awesome. Well, before we dive into your why, can you share a story with us of someone you've impacted as a result of sharing a story that comes up from recently?
Jeremy, there is so many life transformational experiences going on in our masterminds. It's unbelievable. But just a couple of quick stories that I could tell. There was a young man in Alberta, Canada, that joined our mastermind, and he called me and he said, I really don't have the money to join. He said, but I would love to join. And he told me how much he made. And I said, what you're going to be paying me is a big percentage of your income. You don't make very much money. And he said, no, but I've tried everything I know, and I need to get around people. I've heard that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and I'm around the wrong people, he said, and I need to get in your mastermind. He was making $18,000 a year when he joined. 18 months later, he had radically transformed his life. He had implemented the new processes and systems that we do in our business, and his income through November of this past year was $300,000. Wow. And it took about 18 months to go from 18,000 to $300,000. And not everybody does that. I wish I could say that everybody does that, but it was so amazing because he followed the systems, the processes. He really subjected himself to the scrutiny of the members in his group, and he worked consistently every day to implement his process. And he just magically did it over a course of 18 months because he stuck with the system.
That's amazing. And that's not necessarily something that you knew going into creating masterminds, that this is a outcome that we're going to get as a result of starting this business, doing these masterminds.
Jeremy, I didn't even want to do masterminds. I didn't want to do coaching. I didn't want to do anything. I retired 9 years ago when I turned 50. And a good friend of mine is Dave Ramsey and Dan Miller and Ken Abraham. You may or may not be familiar with those names, but Dave and I have been friends now almost 30 years. I was his second sponsor to his radio show when he started here in Nashville, Tennessee. And I spent 21 consecutive years sponsoring his show. And so we became very good friends in that. And he invited me to join his mastermind group decades ago now. We were called the Eagles. And we met in his office every week for about 12 years. And when I retired 9 years ago, he said, what are you going to do now? And I said, nothing. I'm going to retire. And he said, you're too young to retire. And Dan Miller chimed in and he said, yeah, absolutely. You need to coach other people. So I started coaching a couple of guys and fell in love with it, started doing some podcast interviews, and our business just exploded. And so today I spend a lot of time doing interviews, sharing our story. And as I continue to do so, people like you and on your great podcast, I'm introduced to other people, and we keep continuing to grow Iron Sharpens Iron Mastermind.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so as far as your intentional sharing and putting yourself out there to, help others, did that sort of start at this time that you're talking about, or
Yeah, it
is
did.
that okay?
Yeah, what I wanted to do was to help these two young men in their business. They came to me and they said, I was at the Entree Leadership Mastery session. Dave gifted that to me. He said, if you'll just come and do it, I think you'll enjoy it. And I met a couple of guys there named Matt Miller and Brett Barnhart. And through that, they hired me to be their coach. And I went to Dave and I said, this is your event. He said, no, go ahead and coach them. So I started coaching those guys. And Jeremy, I fell in love with seeing their progress. And I really helped them implement some strategies into their business. And it really took them to the next level. Well, that's contagious. When you start doing that and you start seeing guys have some measure of success, you just want to keep doing it. And at that time, we had owned 12 businesses. So I had a business background and I could help these guys really take their business to the next level. And they started growing personally and professionally. And I just kept taking on one-on-one clients. And then I did a pretty big podcast and filled up. I had 15 one-on-one coaching clients. And I said, man, I can't do this. This is going to kill me. And so I pared it down, and I started the mastermind groups, and then it's one to many. And then we found out that the value in these masterminds is the collective energy of all 10 guys. And, guys have been with me now 5 and 6 years in the same group, and their business just continues to explode. They continue to grow personally. And we started 3 women's groups. And so now the women are doing the exact same thing. My wife and my daughter and another lady named Sonia are leading those groups, and they're growing just as fast, if not faster, than we're growing with the men.
That's amazing. All right, so let's go back to the beginning of this journey. Then you started out because you had these 2 entrepreneurs, Dave and another person, and they came to you for some help. And then you were like, okay, well, I'm retired now. I've been through businesses. I can help these people.
Right.
And then that really made you realize that your voice could have a really big impact on helping these entrepreneurs sort of scale up their thinking.
Well, I didn't think so at first, but when I said I was going to retire and move down to the Caribbean and sit on the front porch of one of those little tiki huts and rock myself into an oblivion, my friend Dan Miller, 48 Days to the Work You Love, he looked at me and he leaned over and he pointed his finger and he said, that's the most selfish thing I've ever heard you say. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I've been working since I was 13 years old. He said, you have so much experience. You have so much to give, and you can train and teach and help these young guys grow their businesses and help them. These young guys have just gotten married with these children. You've got over 30 years of marriage. Robin and I celebrate 40 years of marriage next month. So I'm pretty excited about that. And I said,
Congrats.
maybe I do have something to add to these guys. And so as I started pouring myself out, we need mentors, Jeremy. We need people in our lives that can walk alongside us and say, hey, on paper that looks right, but in reality, that's not going to serve you well. And here's why. My experience tells me that this will work better for you. And getting to lock arms and have that camaraderie and getting in the spirit of helping each other and taking each other to new heights, everybody grows as a result of that. And so that's what we've poured our life into for the past 7 years, is helping others achieve their goals and dreams.
All right. So before you even helped these 2 entrepreneurs, you had a friend, Dan Miller, who gave you a nice kick in the butt saying, like, you brought all this value and I believe in you. You've got this champion telling you this is what I think you can add value, and you're doing the world a disservice by not sharing that knowledge.
Yeah, it kind of made me mad at first. It was like, don't I get a pass? I've been working since I was 13. Now I'm 50 and I've worked hard and grown all these businesses. And he said, yeah, you get a pass for about a month and you can take a month off. And I actually took about 18 months off and kind of caught my breath and figured out the direction I wanted to go. And then we started View from the Top, and God has just blessed it. And we just continue to get amazing people that are introduced to us each and every day. And Jeremy, I don't know if you've had coaches or mentors in your life, but we all need one, right? We all can be a mentor and a mentee, and we need people to walk alongside us to give us, and point out those landmines that are along the way to keep us from experiencing that as well. So that's what we're trying to help people do today.
Yeah, I believe that for sure. So your real first big intentional push into intentionally sharing was, after you took this 18-month siesta and you came back and you had this clear vision of what you wanted to do, and it was the view from the top. So you wrote a book, you started a mastermind. What the beginning of View from the Top look like?
Yeah, we were sitting at our dinner table with my family. I've got two adult children, and they're both married. And one of the son-in-laws said, "What do you want to do? What is it that you're wanting to do for people?" And I said, "I'm wanting them to maximize their abilities." I said, "I'm wanting them to have their view from the top." And he goes, "That's it." And I said, "What's it?" He goes, "The name, View from the Top." He said, "That's what you're wanting to give them." So we adopted the name. I bought the domain and we started promoting. We can help you understand what your view from the top is also. People ask me all the time what that is. Well, it depends. It's different for different folks. And Jeremy, if I can be allowed to just for a moment, I want to share a little story with you that can help you understand the reason for this. When I was a young guy like
Sure.
you, I worked around the clock. I mean, I was buying businesses and I was starting businesses, and I was very blessed and very fortunate. At the age of 27, I sold out to a Fortune 500 company. I started my first company when I was 18 years old, and I sold it to a Fortune 500 when I was 27, and I was able to retire. And I was finished for all practical purposes. And I got fat and lazy. And my wife came in there one day, woke me up from a nap. I was about 28 years old, and I gained 50 pounds in about a year. And she said, "This is not what I signed up for." And I said, "I don't know what to do." So I went back and I bought the company that I worked for when I was a teenager. And we grew that business 4 times the size it was when we bought it. And my life was amazing. I had a big house and a place on the beach and the big car and the gate. And I had all the stuff, right? And my life was like incredible. I was 40 years old. I was working 3 days a week. My partner was working 3 days a week. I was knocking it down. It was amazing. But what I realized was I was coming home with a pocket full of money to a house full of strangers. And I said, "I'm doing this at the expense of my family, and that's not going to serve me well long term." Well, about a year later, Jeremy, I was headed to the office and I ran over and killed a pedestrian that was crossing the street to catch a bus.
Oh, wow.
And man, my world came to a screeching halt that day. Literally, I was like, "God, are you serious? I can't believe this happened to me." Well, I won't take you through that whole scenario, but I sold the company and I took 5 years off. I didn't do anything for 5 years. We traveled around the world. We built a new house. I had to get my legs back under me. You just don't run over and kill a pedestrian and get over it, right?
Yeah, I'm
Well,
sorry to
God
hear that.
gave me the grace to learn to deal with it. And my wife came to me one day and she said, "Listen, we've got people counting on you. You've got a big family and they're depending on you, and you can't just lay in this forever." And so I picked myself up from the bootstraps and I said, "I'm going to go back after it." We went in the construction business, built a very successful construction company, and then I retired when I turned 50. And so the paradigm shift for me happened in 2001 when I ran over and killed that pedestrian. My legacy would have been up until that point: poor kid from Nashville, Tennessee, makes enough money to retire at age 27 and nobody cares. And Jeremy, I don't know about you, but I didn't want that to be my legacy. I wanted my legacy to be Jeremy's life is better as a result of having known me. I want your life to be impacted and influenced by my leadership. And I said, I'm going to turn this around and I'm going to start looking outward, and I'm going to give and I'm going to help and I'm going to support, and I'm going to make sure that Jeremy and his friends and people that are around me in my sphere of influence are successful, because I've had a measure of success and I know how to do that. I teach people how to have success personally and professionally. Well, here's what's ironic. Today, we're as successful financially as we've ever been. And there's a lot more significance in my life than has ever been, because we're helping other people accomplish their dreams. And I just want to encourage your audience today to think about if you're making an impact, if you're making a difference in the world today, or is it all about you as an individual? And I just want to encourage everyone to think, hey, I can be hugely successful, but I can be significant all along the way.
I couldn't agree more. And actually, when I sold my first business and I started another one, but I had a a period of time where had a similar struggle. It's just like, I've achieved my goals and it's like, what do I do now? So right now I'm doing this podcast. I'm getting more comfortable sharing and putting myself out there, and I'm sort of just letting, fate take me where I'm going. And I'm, still doing my business, still doing entrepreneurship, but I would like to do something more impactful like you're talking about. So I definitely resonate a lot with that story.
It's going to serve you well, Jeremy. You just keep doing it.
Thanks. So for you, you started this view from the top to help make a bigger impact, leave a legacy. Uh, why was it so important for you to do that?
I just felt it pretty selfish after my friends came to me and said, what you're saying is you've got enough for yourself. Good luck to the rest of you. I'm going to go to the Caribbean. And really, that's not the spirit that we should have. The spirit that we should have is it's okay to take a break. It's okay to settle down. I mean, I'm almost 60, right? And so it's okay to slow down a little bit. But the truth of the matter is that we have a level of wisdom and experience that you can't gain other than doing the deal. And so you can read it in books, but that doesn't have the same application as actually experiencing the trials and the tribulations that we experience as a business owner. And so I've got that, and I'm able to teach other people how to overcome those obstacles. We've had young men that's been married 5 or 6 years, and they're in our group, and they'll say, I'm going to go home and tell my wife this, and we're going to do this. And I'm going to say, yeah, we're going to find your butt on the couch tomorrow morning, because that's not going to serve you well. If you want to really do well with your wife, you need to be a servant leader. You need to help her. You need to encourage her. She needs to be the person that you're most interested in helping to accomplish her goals and dreams. And we walk through how to be a great dad and how to be a great husband, how to be a great colleague and serve your peers well. And you want to be the light in the room. You don't want to be the person that brings the darkness and, it's like a vacuum when you enter the room. You don't want to be that guy. You want to be the guy it's like everybody wants to be around, and you continue to give and you encourage and you edify and you lift up and you connect those people and you check on those people. Because Jeremy, relationships are our number one asset. And I teach people how to build real relationships that serve you well for generations. The Eagles group that Dave Ramsey started decades ago, we're still best friends, and we've known each other almost 30 years now. And so I want to help other people experience that I've been able to experience now for over 3 decades.
Oh, that's awesome. So why is it so important to you to help people build these relationships that can last these decades?
Because it serves you well. Like having money and fame and prestige and all those kind of things, they're okay. I'm not going to disqualify making money. I like to make money, and I hate it when people with money go, oh, money's not important. I want to go, you liar. It is important. It's very important, right? But don't make it your God. Don't make it your focus. Money comes as a byproduct of when you serve people well. My friend, Rabbi Daniel Lapin, says that they're certificates of appreciation for a job well done, and you deserve that. But if you would spend more time trying to add value to people rather than trying to make the sale, you would have more than enough money. The truth is, money doesn't scratch the itch like you think it's going to. I've had all the things, and there's nothing wrong with it. I like having a nice house and a nice car. I got a killer brand new Toyota Tundra. It's the 1796 edition or whatever it is. Got that fan. I love that. I love to have a nice truck. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But my main focus needs to be in people. My main focus needs to be at helping and connecting and lifting up and teaching people how they can do it also. And Jeremy, when you do that, you have the natural reciprocity coming back to you like you've never had. When you're around somebody and they're selfish and they're stingy, nobody wants to help them. But when you're around that guy that shares and gives you tips and advice and help and connects you with people, you're like, man, what can I do for Big A? How can I help him accomplish that also? We have so many people now, we can't even get back to all the people where people say, I need you to meet this guy. I need you to meet this guy. The reason is because we spend an inordinate amount of time giving. See, it's about giving. And when you have relationships that are real, like we've been able to experience, it is life that is adventuresome. It's fun to live your life that way. And that's what I want people to get. I want them to understand what I've been able to do for 4 decades building these relationships. And that's the reason I'm so passionate about helping young people today accomplish that.
Yeah, so you're passionate to help people, discover the value of giving, and to help them, sort of be able to realize that they can make a living doing something where they're giving, so they don't have to just think about money, because that's not really, fixing the itch, like you said.
You know what happens, Jeremy? We keep moving the bar. And I know when I was 18 years old, I started my first retail store, and I thought, man, if I can just get this paid for it. I had a 10-year loan. I paid it off in 36 months. So now I was 21 years old, had a paid for business, and I thought, hey, I can do it again. And so I did. And I thought, if I can just have one more store, it'll be twice as good. And then I did it again, a third time, and then a fourth time. And I thought, I kept moving the bar. And what happened was it sucked me in. Right now, it was taking all my time, all my effort. I was leveraged. It was taking all my money, and I was missing other great opportunities. Now, there was a time where you really need to work hard, but you've got to really take it in strides, and you've got to have a well-rounded life. You've got to prioritize your priorities, and you've got to really focus on the things that matter. And for me, my faith is first and foremost. I'm a Christian by faith, then my wife, then my children, then my grandchildren, then my business. And you've got to keep it in the right perspective. And when you do that, you can live a life. Listen, the people that are listening to me now, you don't get a do-over. This is it. We're living our life right now. This is not a trial run. And you can have so much fun living your life. And you can do that by helping other people. And by the time you do that, you can have all that you want. I'm just telling you, it's not as hard as people make it when you focus outward instead of inward.
I love that. Yeah, focus outward, not inward. So you built the View from the Top, brand. When starting that, did you have any kind of imposter syndrome, or did you like have any barriers that you had to overcome to get started?
Yeah, I
Did you
did.
have to give yourself permission?
I did. I'll share one with you. I normally don't share this on interviews, but I'm going to share it because I really like you and you make me feel comfortable. So I'm going to share something. So I don't have a college education. I wanted to work, and I didn't want to go to college. And so when I was 15 years old, I decided what I wanted to do for a living. So I went to summer school and night school for 18 months. I had enough credits to graduate the beginning of my junior year in high school. So I didn't even have to go, my senior year, and I only went to one class my junior year. I had 21 credits at the end of my, or at the beginning of my sophomore year. And so college was something I wanted to do, but I wanted to work more. And it's always bothered me that I didn't have a college education, yet I've owned 14 companies and retired at 27. And so I've got the education, but I didn't have that diploma. I didn't have that, document that hung on the wall that said I went to some big school and had a doctorate degree or MBA. I didn't have that. And Dan Miller kind of worked me through that. And he said, listen, he said, you could teach at college. Right? You don't have to have that piece of paper. And I felt like an imposter because people that were joining our mastermind groups had big educations. And, we've got people in our mastermind groups that are just like me and you, Jeremy. They're normal guys and they're making normal livings and they want to be around. But we have guys that do $1 million a week in top line revenue. We have guys that have 500 employees, run big companies. And the brotherhood, the camaraderie that we formed is amazing. But when I first started taking off and growing, and we're in the process of growing more, I mean, we're going to have thousands of people in Iron Sharpens Iron Mastermind Group. We're developing the infrastructure. We're building pods. We're opening it up for those that are interested in joining us. It's going to be incredible. You just wouldn't believe what's going on in our mastermind groups. But I had that imposter syndrome until finally one day I woke up and I thought, you know what? I am who I am. I've been successful. We've grown all these businesses. I don't need that piece of paper. And I overcame that upper limit challenge that Gay Hendricks talks about in his book, The Big Leap, right? We all have that glass ceiling that we've got to push through. And one day I just decided, you know what? My pedigree can speak for itself. I don't need a piece of paper on the wall. But it was the imposter syndrome, and it was something that bothered me. Many people in your audience today are dealing with similar challenges. There's something that's bugging you, and you just got to push through that upper limit challenge to forge on and to live the life that you want to live. Don't let it hold you back, and don't do like I did for years. Go ahead now and deal with it and push through it.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So when you were, overcoming that barrier of the imposter syndrome, like what steps did you take to, make the realization that
Yeah,
you
good
could
question.
overcome that?
First of all, you can't do it alone. We were designed to be in community, and you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. No question about it. If you'll look at your average income, there's usually not a 10% variance in your income in the people that you hang out with the most of the time. I love to play golf, and I was a single digit handicap golfer until I broke my wrist a few years ago. But I didn't like to play with guys that I could beat. It just wasn't interesting to me. I wanted to play with +2, +3 handicap golfers. And every time I did that, it upped my game because I was around guys that had different things they could show me, different techniques. I got off in the woods on the second hole playing with a good friend of mine. It's a +2 handicap. And I grabbed a wood and he goes, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm going to put this on the green." He said, "There's not a chance in you know where that you're going to put that ball on the green." He said, "Take your sand wedge, chip it out into the fairway, chip up, make your putt, take your bogey, and go on. If you hit that wood, you're going to take a triple bogey on this hole. And you can't do that." I took my sand iron, I chipped up, took my bogey putt, and went on. He was exactly right. See, he was a better golfer than me. He knew what my capabilities were. That's what we need in business. That's what we need around us all the time. We need guys that can surround us to help us see what the kryptonite is in our life, to see what our superpowers are, to see what our blind spots are. Perspective is what that community gives you. And that's the reason you need to be around people that can help push you through those upper limit challenges.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, you definitely need to enroll other people to help you overcome, especially like feelings of imposter syndrome
See,
and help you out.
other people see you differently than you see yourself. And you
Right.
need other people around you that are non-biased, trusted advisors that can give you advice to help you move forward.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, that's great advice. So you've put a lot of effort into community. You've got this mastermind now with 180-ish, 200-ish people, and you're looking to grow it into the thousands. You're creating pods. Like you've got this vision for it. So like, what's been like some of the bigger reasons for success for building community for you? Because that's something that a lot of people struggle with is building communities, and you seem to have a knack for pulling some people together.
Yeah, I appreciate that. About 2 years ago, there was a lot of entrepreneurs and coaches and podcast hosts and thought leaders from around the world started contacting me. And they said, "We're watching you scale all these masterminds. How are you doing that?" And I said, "Well, we've got a system and a process down. We've got a great team, and we've implemented the strategies, the themes, the books, the questions, the accountability tools, the man in the middle. We've got everything down to kind of a science as to how to run these mastermind groups." And they said, "Would you teach us how to do that?" And I thought, well, I hadn't really thought about that. And they said, "What would you charge us to come and us, be coached by you?" And I didn't really want to do it, Jeremy, just to be honest with you, because I knew it was going to take a lot of time. And I thought about it and I just pulled a big figure out of the air. I said, "If you want to come one on one for 6 weeks, I'll teach you this process and I'll charge you X dollars," knowing they wouldn't do it. And they said, "Where do I send the money?" And I'm like, "What?" And they said, "Where do I send the money?" So I sent them a link. They sent me the money. And another guy came, same question, told him the same thing. He said, "Where do I send the money?" And so my daughter is the COO, Chief Operating Officer of our company. She walked in my office one day and she said, "Dad, why don't we create a playbook and we'll put all the videos and all the strategies and the lead magnets and all the templates and the swap files, and we'll put everything into a playbook, and you can sell that rather than coaching people individually, because we do have the systems and everything is a written process and a system for everything that we do." And so it took us a year, Jeremy, our whole team, it took a year to put together 30 professional videos and 90 worksheets and tools, maybe 100 worksheets and tools, to teach you how to build your own mastermind, to grow it, and to scale it like we've done. We even included another course within the playbook that teaches you how to build facilitators, because a lot of the groups that I have, I don't lead, yet I still make 60% of the revenue. So it's passive income to me. And now I've got people that we're selling this to, and it's called the Mastermind Playbook. You see it on the display behind me. And we're teaching people how to do exactly what I've done. And it's a very nominal fee that you pay for this playbook. And it teaches you from day one how to start, grow, and scale masterminds like we've done. And I can't even begin to tell you the success that people are having. We just had Inc. magazine contact us. And normally I'm trying to get these magazines. They contacted us and did a story on it. Dave Ramsey did a personal endorsement and did a video. His whole team went through it. Ray Edwards, everybody knows Ray Edwards. He said it was the best playbook he's ever been through in his career. This is a guy that's a 30-year veteran, and we're having so much success out of that. So if you want to create and grow and scale your own mastermind, if you don't want to join ours, create your own, and you can do it with themastermindplaybook.com.
Awesome. So when you were pulling people together for the community, for your mastermind groups, did you start out just reaching out to your local people that you knew that would be nice, with the group mindset necessary to be in a mastermind group, and sort of pulled from your network?
We did a few people that way, but quite honestly, and I don't mind telling you because I share it in the Mastermind Playbook, 90% of the people that have joined my mastermind have come as a result of me doing a podcast interview. Because as you said earlier, I've been on just under 2,000 podcasts, about 1,800 actually podcast interviews. And that is the way we've built our tribe. Now, I may have done it backwards. A lot of people say you need to have your own podcast and then go out and be a guest. But I wanted to leverage the audience of other podcast hosts and build a rapport and a relationship and try to add value and encouragement and edify other people and share my story about the way I've grown our businesses and try to add value. And then people say, hey, I would like to learn more about your mastermind, and I would like to learn more about the Mastermind Playbook and how we can do that also. I had a guy call me recently and said, I want to join your mastermind, but I got to be totally honest with you. He said, because I'm a man of character and I've got to tell you the truth. And I said, okay, what is it? He said, I want to coach just like you're coaching, and I want to do masterminds just like you're doing. And the only reason I want to join is to learn from you. And I said, come on, man, I'll teach you everything I know. He said, seriously? Like, you'll tell me the secret sauce? I said, listen, there's 7.5 billion people on the planet, and we've got a couple of hundred of them. Okay. I can get that many people in my house at a party, and we've created a 7-figure business with 200 people. And I said, why would I not want to share with you? Because your sphere of influence, your colleagues, I'll never touch. I want to help you. He was our biggest advocate. He started enlisting people to join the mastermind group. You know why? Because I was giving. See what people do today, and it makes me so mad. They go, I'm not going to tell you the secret sauce. I'm not going to share with you. I'm not going to give. Well, that's a selfish mindset, and it's a scarcity mindset. You got to have an abundance mindset. And the more we help, the more we share, the more we teach, the more people come. And I just want to encourage your audience today to adopt that mindset early on and share everything you can with people. And you watch, the floodgates will open and people will come because they want to be around people that's interested in helping them.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And that's crazy. 1,800 podcast episodes. I wanted to dive into that a little bit. I have heard of a lot of people that have just tried being guests on podcasts without a podcast themselves, and it's a good approach to get reach, like you said.
Yeah.
But how did that happen? Like, how did you end up here where you've been on 1,800 podcasts?
I'll tell you a funny story. You're not going to believe this story. So I was in bricks and mortar business, my whole career. And so 9 years ago when I retired, they said I should coach. I started thinking about it. And then about a year and a half later, someone said, if you're going to start View from the Top, you need to start promoting and advertising. And one guy just made a suggestion. He said, you need to get on podcast. And I said, okay, I'll do it. I said, what is a podcast? He said, you're kidding me. And I said, no, I don't even know what a podcast is. And he told me what a podcast was. And I said, I don't even know who to contact. He said, well, there's this new young guy starting out, one called Entrepreneur on Fire, John Lee Dumas. Said, you need to contact him, but good luck. He said, everybody wants to get on there. You know, he's got a thriving show, and good luck getting on there. So I just simply sat down on my iPad and I told my story, and I emailed it to, I looked it up and I emailed him the story. Well, he sent me a reply back, said, I want you on the show. And I leaned over on the sofa at my home and I told my wife, I said, I think this is what they call an auto responder. I think this is what he's got here. Well, the next morning I get up and I look at my email, and there's another email that says, hey, did you get my email? I want you on the show. And I said, I'll be dead gum. He does want me on the show. So I got on John's show. And since then, we've built a friendship. And I think, and I could be corrected here, but I think I'm correct, I'm the only 5th repeat he's ever had. He told me, I'm quoting him, and you can verify this. He said that my interview about living a life of success and significance impacted him more personally than the 2,200 other episodes that he did. And I was so encouraged by that. And it went on to become the 5th most downloaded episode on Entrepreneur on Fire. And John's had me on 4 other times since then. Wow. And we've developed a good relationship. Well, after you've been on a show that gets hundreds of thousands of downloads, other people start recognizing it. And so it just turned into kind of a frenzy to where I was starting to be guest on other shows. And I was just on Dave Ramsey's podcast a couple of weeks ago. It's about to air. They're the 5th largest in the world now, and that was pretty exciting. And so they invited me to share my story about mine and Dave's relationship and the Eagles and what we did there. So I just started reaching out, and I hired a full-time assistant. So now I have a full-time assistant that does nothing but book me on interviews. And it started out by being a guest on just show after show. And the criteria for me at that time was, if you had a microphone and a podcast, I would be your guest. And I love being guest on new shows as well, because I want to help people get their show started. And I want to help encourage you. And that's just the mindset, listen, people, that we've got to have. It's not all about you. It's not just everything you can get out of it. And what I found out, Jeremy, is that if you're promoting just a product and you're just trying to sell a book, or that's not going to get you anywhere on podcasts. What you've got to do is have a transformational story that you're interested in sharing, that you can put into the lives of other people, that they can adopt your principles and change their life. Because the truth, Jeremy, all people are interested in is how your product or service fixes their problem. That's all they're interested in. And when you make it all about yourself, you can't do that. You've got to figure out a way that you can help other people solve their problems.
That's awesome. Well, I got to say, you have the nicest microphone setup of anybody that doesn't have a podcast that I've seen.
Well, you know, we did have a podcast, and we're about to relaunch it because I've changed it, because Iron Sharpens Iron has really taken over our business. And so June 1st of 2020, we're launching Iron Sharpens Iron podcast. And so keep an eye out for us.
Nice. So if you don't mind me asking, or if you don't mind being a little transparent about it, like what does it look like for your full-time assistant? Like what does their average day look like when they're trying to help get you booked another?
Yeah, I appreciate that. We've created a very extensive press kit. And in that, we give all of our social media connections, our LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, we give everything there. We give pictures, we give questions that the podcasting host can ask. It's a very extensive press kit, because the easier you can make it for the podcast host, the better your chances of getting on their show, because otherwise they've got to look up the pictures and they've got to get your links. And so we make it really easy for podcast hosts. And then we tell them how we can help transform their audience's mindset in different arenas. We don't lead with, we're trying to sell the Mastermind playbook or view from the top book or push our masterminds. We say we're going to help people understand how they can live a very successful and significant life. And that resonates with everybody, right? So whatever story.
You focus on the transition.
Yes, because what you want to talk about is how your life was before the transformational experience and what your life is like afterwards. See, that's the path that people want to go down. Because to be honest with you, Jeremy, even your audience today, they don't care that I've written books. They don't care that I've owned 14 businesses. They don't care that Dave Ramsey and I are friends. Honestly, they really don't care. What they care about is the message that I'm sharing and how they can apply that to their life. That's what they're interested in. And we've got to get really creative with sharing with people in an applicable way to where they can take what you are teaching and go out and implement that strategy for themselves.
Very cool. Yeah, I think that's really important, is to come up with that extensive press kit. And, you have someone full time just out there pushing it out there, trying to find the story that fits into each podcast separately.
Correct.
Very cool. Yeah, actually, we found each other through a referral. So, someone suggested you, so I wasn't part of that whole process.
He was a podcast host and interviewed me, and I ended up hiring him. He works for me now, and he suggested that you and I get to know each other, and he referred you to me. See, that's what I'm saying. You just keep helping people. I spent this morning probably an hour, and I connected a guy to 10 people to try to help get him work, right? We've got to connect. I love connecting. And see, what that's going to do is they're going to be very appreciative, and I'll be top of mind with them, and they'll want to help me. You see how it works? It's just that natural way. But if it's always about Jeremy, or it's always about Aaron, if it's always about them, people let them do their own thing. They'll figure it out.
Right.
But when you spend an inordinate amount of time texting people every day, calling them, checking on them, seeing how they are, how can I serve you? Who can I connect you with? What can I do? That's the people that are building relationships that are going to make a difference.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So we're running a little bit low on time here. So before I open the floor for you to talk a little bit about your brand, which I'll be linking everything to you on my website on the show notes. If you were to meet like a new influencer, let's say like someone trying to make a big impact that isn't necessarily doing that right now, what would be some of the biggest pieces of advice that you could give to this person for increasing their impact or their reach?
Well, it depends on the arena that you were in, and we've really talked about it a lot today, but it's building those relationships intentionally. And people ask me all the time, what would you do better, faster if you had it to do over? And it would be, I would spend 25% of my time every day nurturing and building new relationships. Tim Elmore, I interviewed him recently. He wrote the Generation Z book, and Tim and I were talking, and he said that, the Generation Z today is the most connected, and yet they're the most alone generation in history, because everything is done by screen, it's done by virtual, and we're talking about social distancing right now because of this crisis that we're going through. But really, the way they should put that is in-person distancing, not social distancing, is what they should say, because you can still be very connected by phone, by email, in person, on Zoom, on Skype, in person. There's so many ways that you can connect today. Listen, if I had had the internet when I was a young guy, I feel like I could be even way ahead of where I am now. Now I can do a Facebook Live or a tweet, and I can reach hundreds of thousands of people all over the world. And used to, I would spend $5,000 on a magazine ad and pray to the Lord that somebody saw it in the surrounding county and come and buy a product. See, people don't realize the tools that they have today in these Facebook Lives and LinkedIn and Pinterest and Snapchat and all these things. You can make posts and build an audience and reach thousands of people. So what we need to do is take the time necessary. That's a person. People all the time are commenting on my posts, and I'll call them on the phone, or I'll call them through Messenger, and I'll say, hey, can we just have a chat? And they'll be like, really? You want to talk? Yeah, I want to thank you for supporting me and being in my corner. And then the next thing I know, they're joining my mastermind group, right? Because I reached out, I showed them that I was interested in them. And that's the piece that I think young people are missing today. I think they think that they can hide behind the screen and make a post, and there's nothing that takes the place of that relationship. So if you're hearing my voice today, really take it upon yourself. A young guy, 19 years old, reached out to me the other day, and he said, Mr. Walker, I've read your book. I follow you on Facebook. I love what you're doing. And he lives in our community. He said, would you have coffee with me? And I'm like, yes, I love guys like you. I want to go have coffee. I met him at 6 a.m. and we went and had coffee and talked. And I get taking notes like crazy. This young guy was taking notes like nobody else. I was teaching him and training him. And see, people need to have the fortitude in them to reach out, because the answer is always no, unless you ask, Jeremy. Right. And so you need to ask, you need to reach out. Recently, Seth Godin, I wrote a book, and Seth Godin turned me down on one of my books. He didn't leave me an endorsement, and it hurt my feelings, but I was like, man. So I wrote another book and I sent it to him, and he loved it. And he said, yes, I want to endorse your book. And people say, how did you get Seth Godin to endorse your book? I said, I asked him. And they said, that's it? I said, yes, I asked him, and he loved the book and he endorsed the book. See, we don't have today because we don't ask. We're afraid they'll say no. Well, 100% of the time, if you don't ask, the answer is no. I'd rather be turned down and ask. You see, failure is in not trying, not in not succeeding. And so we just got to go out there, Jeremy, and go for it and ask and encourage. And I promise you, there's going to be more yeses than you realize.
Yeah, I love it. Thanks for sharing that. That's a ton of value there. And if people, listen to that, they'll get value for sure. So what's the best way for people to contact you? I'll put links to all your stuff on my website, but where do you want to point?
Yeah, viewfromthetop.com is the easiest way to contact me. I'm pretty easy to find. You can type in Aaron Walker in Google, and I make myself very accessible. My phone number is on my webpage. It's my cell number. People say, why are you crazy? This guy called me the other day, and I answered the phone, and I said, hello. And he said, is this Mr. Walker? And I said, yes. And he said, well, I wasn't expecting that. I said, well, you called my phone. What did you expect? I mean, it rang. So it was like, I want to talk to you. Reach out to me. I want to talk to you. I want to help you. So that's why I put my phone number online. The thing that I'm most interested in right now is helping people form their own community. I'd love for you to join our mastermind. If you want to join, if you're a young man, 20 to 25, emerging men, we cut the price in half for those guys, right? Because we want to help them. The women are blowing up, man. They're doing great. The men joining one of my groups, I'd love to have you in that. But this mastermind playbook, it will transform the way you do business. If you're looking to start your own, yeah, there's an investment. There's an investment in everything that's worth having. But if you want to start your own, this is the ticket. It's themastermindplaybook.com.
Well, Aaron, you shared a ton of value with us today. I just want to thank you again for taking the time to come on here and share with us. It means a lot to me, and it means a lot to the listeners here. So thanks again for coming on. And
thank you, Jeremy.
And just go to, it's going to be up in about maybe 2 weeks or so, but we'll have it on whyinfluence.com, whyinfluence.com, and you can navigate to Aaron Walker's episode, and we'll have links to all his social media, his website, everything there. But obviously you heard him here today, so you can navigate there if you're listening now. So before I let you go, I like to get feedback from my guests because I'm on my own journey for putting myself out there and sharing more. I just wanted to, see if there's any feedback you have for me.
Yeah, no, I'd love to do that. You're still going live. You want the whole world to hear the feedback?
Yeah.
I think
constructive criticism.
I think I have no criticism. You've made me feel very comfortable and warm. You're very inviting. You're very easy to talk to, which is something that a lot of podcast hosts miss. You listen very intently. A lot of podcast hosts are just thinking about their next question and they miss the answer. And you've done a magnificent job of listening, and you've dovetailed into the next question as a result of listening to my answer. And so I think you have a very, very bright future ahead of you in being a podcast host. And I think you're a fine young man. So I think you're going to do well in your next venture. So keep doing what you're doing. Why Influence is a great tool, and you're helping a lot of people. So I don't have, the only thing we talked about, I laughed a while ago. I said it was easier for me to get in to see a local politician than it was to get on your show. I had to sign a document and I had to find a link. And I said, my Lord, no, I'm just teasing with that. But it was, it was quite a journey to get here. I said, he's got the secret sauce hidden behind the wall in here. I got to sign all this stuff. Now it's fun though. It wasn't any problem. Yeah. But
I'm working on that.
We had fun
because I was using Zoom and Calendly. And Zoom integrated with the Calendly calendar, so when someone booked it, it would automatically create the link. and then
Yeah.
send the reminders with the link. And now that I'm using a
Yeah.
program called StreamYard, it doesn't integrate with any calendars. So I've
I couldn't find the
Calendly.
link. That was the problem. I was
Yeah.
contacting Cherry, my VA, and I was looking through emails, and I knew the time was counting down. I didn't want to be late, and I went, "Where's the dadgum link?" I couldn't find the link, and I emailed you, and you sent it right to me. So, hey,
Awesome.
man, this was fun today. I love being with you. I'm excited to get to know you even better, and hopefully we can do a repeat at some point, and we can
Yeah.
talk about different subjects. So I'd love to be your guest in the future.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time today. Thanks for the feedback, and I look forward to chatting with you more.